Hi, welcome back. Glad you can join us again. So today we'll be starting off with basic introduction to Python. It's going to be really gentle. So first we'll be going through some print statements, and then let me think. After that, I'll be going through some of the types or the scope variable types in Python, how I can do assignment, just very simple arithmetic. And then some control statements like if else, and then the for while loops. And we end up with think a bit of discussion about the functions. So it's not going to be very heavy, but then it should be comprehensive enough for you to cover the fundamentals in Python. Hopefully, it'll be sufficient for you to embark on writing a few programs by yourself. Let's go ahead with the material. I'm going to share my screen right now. Okay. So over here, this is the material that we're going through. Once again, the notebook is shared in the description below, so you can just go over there to get it. So the first thing we're going to go about is typically in all languages, the hello world statement. So to do a hello world, we're going to do a print. So that's the basic command, a print. So hello world. So then it should print out the so-called the text hello world. The one of the times I ran this workshop, it was during the National Day weekend that just passed. So if I wanted to say hello, Happy National Day, Singapore. So it just basically echoes out whatever I ask him to echo. So this print, what it's trying to say is that I'm trying to tell the computer that please echo out whatever I'm telling you within the so-called the quotation marks. That's basically it. The next thing that happens is that what happens if we wish to print out a variable. So for instance, if there's username equals to Donny, so and I want to say good afternoon username. So I have print good afternoon user name. So then it prints out the good afternoon username out in this sequence. Actually, I may not need to do a space. So I think it automatically appends a space there, so I don't need a space there. So it takes out the username and just prints it, in a way concatenates it together with the earlier statement, and it also has a space in between as well. So this is another way of so-called assigning the so-called a variable to the print statement. And if I want to, so if I have two users, so I have a username 2 equals to him. So I can always do this good Happy National Day. And me and happy long weekend. Yeah. So over here it prints a Happy National Day, my name, and so I can concat various in a way various so-called statements together with the variable. So in this case I sort of had a string and then a variable and ended up with another string again. So there's some things that I can do. Of course, if I want to use username too, I can also do that. Yeah. So just to illustrate that. Yeah. So no biggie. Let's not need to do this. Okay. Okay, there's this last form that I wanted to show, which is in the following form, whereby I'm able to use the format so-called keyword. So let's say if I have a first name equals to Donnie, and my last name equals to So. So I can have a print of good afternoon. And I use the curly brackets here first. So I'm going to write out the entire statement and I'm going to break it down one by one. I confirm that your last name is something. So so what the curly brackets show is that it is a placeholder for me to put the value of a variable in, or value of a value of something in there. So in our example, I'm going to use the value of the two variables. So the first variable is our first name, and the second variable is last name. So it's going to say, good afternoon, Donnie. May I confirm that your last name is So? So that is how this format statement actually goes about. So if I can actually, in fact, I can just can have this as well. This is going to work as well. So it just replaces whatever that is in this parameter with the corresponding curly brackets in the earlier statement. Okay, so let's assume that I am going to print out this string, which is good afternoon first name, where I confirm that your family name is last name, and your phone number is user phone. So I'm going to do print good afternoon to with a curly bracket. I confirm that your family name is another curly bracket, and your phone number is another curly bracket. And I can do a format. And in the format, I'm going to have first name, last name, followed by the phone number. That's it. Okay, so notice that in the last example, I'm mixing both string variables and numerical variables, and there are actually no issues with that. Okay. So that leads us to the next part of the discussion, which is on data types. So for example, if we had the statements, what is my 4A temperature? So I'm requiring when I have the input there, I'm actually asking somebody for his input, rather to type something into the box there. So if I have so-called for 39 or maybe 36.9, what this does is that it takes the number 36.9 as input. It is initially a string, but because of this float keyword there, it converts it to a float and then stores it as a float. So it stores the number 36.9 as a float in the temperature so-called variable. Okay. There are various types of how to say? There are various types of in Python. So there's integer, there's float, there's string, there's boolean, and so these are the various types. Let's print out the temperature again. PRATRE. So the temperature is 6.9, and we can also know what is the type of the temperature. So if I have type TYP, tells us that the type is of type float. Okay, let's now do this. Initially, I had a conversion to float. Let's see if I don't convert this to float. I'm gonna put 39. This is my void temperature. I put in temperature temp, and now I'm going to find out the type of this. And notice that now my temperature is now temperature temp. The type of it is that of a string. Basically, because I didn't really convert it to a float. So yeah. So let's say if I want to have input type to be string. Actually, I don't need this thing. This would actually be input type of string. Let's see if I put 35. Temperature is going to be 35. Let's just do a very brief check. Notice that it is type string. Okay. So we'll continue moving on. Right now the temperature we're getting is in degrees Celsius. So for example, if you want to convert it to a Fahrenheit, how then do we go about doing that? So yeah, so if initially it was like this, whereby I just put the input of this, it's going to come out as a string. So let's just leave it at that and see how that may, what are the kind of errors that may occur. So we have temperature in degrees Celsius as my input. I want to have my temperature in Fahrenheit. So let's just do this. Equals temperature in degrees Celsius, and we will use the formula for conversion here, multiply by 1.8 plus 32. So basically, whatever temperature I get from the top, I'm going to multiply by 1.8 and then add a number of 32 there. And I'm going to print out my print temperature F, and also going to print temperature C. Okay, let's just run this to see what happens. So if I put in 39 here, there's going to be a type error. And what the error is saying is that I can't multiply a non-integer by a type float. So of course, with all programming, such statements, sometimes they're a bit cryptic. So what it's trying to say is the following, that this type float is in fact referring to this 1.8. So 1.8 is a floating number. And it's saying that there's an error in trying to multiply a non-integer, which apparently in this case is temperature C, with a float. And so I'm trying to multiply a string with a float. The error that is happening is that my input is a string, and if I had not converted it to so-called a float or integer, in this case a float, and hence it's complaining to me that I'm trying to multiply a string together with another float. So that can't work. So the right way to do it will be I have to put a float here, where in a way I convert my input into a float first. And as you can see, right now I'm able to convert my my temperature of degrees Celsius of 39 to okay. So we completed the first part. Now we are at the second part. So in the, let's say we have a discussion of we have a very extremely naive way of how to find out if on the image is it showing the number 8 or not. So it's a very naive way will be I'm going to scan the top of the image, and I'm going to scan the bottom of the image. If there's a circle at the top, if there's a circle at the bottom, I'm going to say that there is a number 8 there. So of course, yeah, it is an extremely naive way and can't really work. But in fact, this is a set of if-else statements that we often do during programming, and I'm going to go through them one by one up here. There are a few types of these if-else statements. So they all, yeah, but these are just types that they're not like how to say, they're not like they're not law, but they're just various ways that we can describe them purely for easy understanding. Yeah, so that's about it. So the first type is if something happens, then we want to carry out a certain action. So for example, we always use the example, if it rains, I'm going to take the cab. Yeah, so if a condition occurs, then a certain action is going to happen. Yeah, so if hungry, I'm going to eat. Or some people, if I'm not hungry, I'm also going to eat. So anyway, yeah, sorry. Yeah, so anyway, yeah, so if there's certain condition that's being satisfied, I'm going to carry out certain action. So let's say if number equals to 5, so if number greater than 0, for example. So if this condition is satisfied, I'm going to print number is greater than 0. And then be out. So evidently this is going to print out number is greater than 0. Okay, few things. Actually, one main thing that you want to take note of. There's this condition here. After the condition, I have a semicolon. Immediately in the next line, I have to do an indentation. So unlike other languages, right, Python doesn't use curly brackets. We use something called indentations. So we use indentations to let them know that they fall under the same block. So everything under this same indentation will fall under this if block. If I were to do something like this string prints regardless. If I were to add this line here, this line is in fact not within my if block. So regardless whether it is greater than 0 or is it less than 0, that string is going, that print statement is going to be executed regardless, and it's always going to be printed out. And so however, if I were to put that line under the same block, you'll notice that this will be printed out only if the number is greater than 0. So if the number is less than 0, it's not going to be printed out. Yeah. Okay. So if less than 0, nothing gets printed out. Okay. So we now come to the so-called the third type of print statements. So it is the okay, sorry, I think I missed this is still if this is still the first type. Oh, sorry. So this entire part should be here. So this if. Now I have if and else. So right now, if I have a number equals to -10, if number greater than 0, I'm going to print number is greater than 0. And else print number is equal or less than 0. Yeah, so if it's less than 10, less than 0, the second line less than or equal to 0, the second line is going to be printed out, else the first line is going to be printed out. So notice that again, the indentation. This indentation falls under this if block, and this indentation falls under this block. So for example, if it rains, I'm going to take the cab, else I'm going to take the bus. So yeah, just a very simple everyday example that we use. If I screw up on this indentation and I do this instead, it's going to immediately try an error, and I can't yeah, because yeah, I can't run it in that way. Okay, if it's good, we are going to go on to our third way of defining if else statements. So this is if, else, if, and else. So just going to use an example. Number is now equals to 5 if number greater than 0. I'm going to do something. Number is greater than 0. Else if number equals to 0, print is equal to 0. And finally, else print number is less than 0. Okay, so this is it. I have one extra. Yeah, so if it's 5 or if it's greater than 0, this line will be printed out. If it is equals to 0, it's going to print out the second line. If it's less than 0, then the third line. Okay, good. So we talked about list. We'll be talking about list right now. So list is a form of data type that allows us to store multiple values, very much like an array. So we use the square brackets to store a list, and they are so-called separated with a comma. So I'm going to use the friend list. So friend list equals to, use John, Andrew, Joseph, Heather, and lastly Michelle. So you have a list of 5 friends there. So how do we print out the exact entire list? I can just do a print of friend list, and this prints out my my entire friend list. This is just can do a print of my friend and my 0 index, and there's it. If I want my friend, my second friend, my friend at my first index number 1, I have to do this. Okay. So how do we get the first 2 friends? So we're going to use the operator. So you're gonna everything until the index of 2, which is index number 0 and index number 1, and so here we go. Okay. So how do we get the last friend? Last friend will be using a negative indexing method. So -1. Just do a negative indexing of -1 to get my last friend. Okay. So I think our friend is pretty straightforward as well. What we can do is friend list dot append, and then let's say I'm going to add a Peter here. Yeah, and I'm going to print out friend list. So it's going to print out the list of my friends together with the new friend Peter. So if I have more than 1 friend to add in, append occurs when you add in just 1 friend. But if I have more than one friend to add in, I have a list of friends. I use the keyword extend. And let's say I'm going to extend by 3 friends. Check Felix, Roland, so this gives me the list of my friends that have appended check Felix and Roland in. So okay, so let's say if I want to remove a friend of mine, unfortunately, dot remove. I can just do the remove and friend list. I can tell Felix is removed from my list of friends. And how do I find the index of my friend Andrew? In this case, I can just do this. Okay, so it's index number 1. So index number 0 is John. Index number 1 is Andrew. Okay, so we go on. So let's say I have 5 salaries. I want to create a list. So this is how I create it. I want to print it out. So I can just print out the salaries. Yeah, so this is how I do it. Add one more salary to the list. So I should be appending. And I append 30 to the list. And let's see if this works. Yeah, it seems to work. And the next task I need to do is I'm going to find the minimum salary and remove it from the list. So it's slightly easier to do it in a few steps. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find my what is my minimum salary first. Temp salary is not defined. Equals to what is my minimum salary first, which should be equals to the number 14. And I'm going to remove it totally from the list. Okay, so you notice that the number 14 is currently has been removed from the list already. So what does it say? Remove, find the minimum salary, remove it from the list. If the removed salary is smaller than 20, add the removed salary to the maximum salary of the list. Otherwise, add the removed salary to the minimum salary of the list. So either ways, you have to know what is the minimum salary, which is equals to number 14 in this case. Okay, so this is a little bit complex, but should be okay. So if let's say temp salary is less than a certain number. So if it is less than 20, I'm going to add the removed salary to the maximum salary to the list. So if it's less than 20, okay, I'm going to first find my index of my maximum value in my list. So index max of salaries. So this line gives me the index where my the maximum of my salary resides in. And then if it's less than 20, I'm going to add what I deleted earlier to this maximum salary. Okay. Else, I'm going to find my else if it is not if it's equal or greater than 20, I'm going to add the salary to my minimum salary in the list. So I'm going to find the minimum salary. Minimum salary. And I'm going to add them by temp salary. I can also shift out the block so that it will edit regardless. Okay, I'm going to run this now. Okay, should I print it out? So notice that the maximum salary it is less than 20, and so it's going to add it to the maximum salary, which is 2600. And so 14 plus 2600, you get 2614. Okay. Okay. So so this is for if else statement. We're going to the next one, which is on for loops. So for loops, they usually have a certain so-called structure to it or syntax. So it's for iteration in some value, then some statements that occur. Okay, so this is very abstract. So I'm going to use a code to illustrate this. So for example, for iteration, in range of 5, I'm going to print iteration. So what happens is that it's going to print 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So notice that iteration stops at number 4. So not at 5, but at number 4. Okay. So this is one way of iterating through a numerical value. At every point, there may be other operations that we want to execute, and this is essentially how we do it. The other so-called type of so-called loop statements are so-called a variable in a certain sequence. So for example, for friend, in friend list, print friend. So what this does is it goes through my friend list. For every single friend that is there, it will carry out the certain action here. Okay. All good. Okay. So finally, we come with two examples. The first example is given a list of items, people, Saul David Solomon. Print out the items with the welcome message. Welcome somebody. Okay, so the temp. Let's first create the temp list equals to Saul David Solomon. Okay, and for temp name in temp list, I just need to do a welcome, and I do the curly brackets dot format name, and that's all. Okay. Okay. So the next example, the final example that we have is develop one program to print out the summation of even numbers between 3 and 200. So I probably need to have a variable that stores this summation. So I'm just going to call it temp summation, temp sum. So for iteration in range of 3 all the way to 201, reason being, if I put 200, you'll start at 199. So if I put 201, it's going to stop at 200. If iteration modulo 2 equals to 0, what this means is that if my iteration can be divisible by 2 with no remainders, so I then say that I need to multiply m sum plus equals to iteration. And that's it. Yep, and that's it. Okay, so hopefully you have found this session useful, and it is more of a simple introduction to Python than making it very exhaustive. So I think at this time we are really trying to streamline whatever content that we need to use to the bare essentials, so that with these bare essentials you'll be able to do have maximum impact in your work or your learning. Really to avoid the situation whereby we get bogged down with a lot of the unique conditions that we don't really use, and then the conditions that we use very often we are not that sure of. I think what we're trying to establish is that we get you off the ground fast and running, and it gives you enough content to start building your own programs, and definitely along the way you will have to supplement it with your own learning, your own other reading, or just by simply doing a lot of practice. Okay, so I hope to see you guys again in our next video. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll catch you around. Cheers.